There's something about getting older that changes the way we relate to our own bodies. In our younger years, we might have brushed off little aches or moments of fatigue as nothing more than life being busy. But with time, the signals shift. What once felt like minor inconveniences can take on a different meaning. And the truth is, it's not because you've become weak, it's because your body has become wiser, more insistent in how it asks for care. Aging has a way of teaching us that listening is just as important as doing. I sometimes think of it like a well-worn book. The pages might be fragile, the ink a little faded, but the story inside has become deeper, richer, more profound. That's how our bodies feel too, carrying not just the weight of years, but also the wisdom of experiences. The trouble is, many of us have been conditioned to not make a fuss, to quietly endure rather than speak up. Yet silence can sometimes be more dangerous than the discomfort itself. A sudden change, a new kind of pain, or a strange sensation that lingers. It may all seem small, but these can be your body's way of whispering, "Pay attention, I need you now." Ignoring those whispers because you don't want to trouble anyone or because you think it's just part of aging can put you at risk. What if, instead of seeing these signals as annoyances, you chose to see them as invitations to care for yourself with more tenderness? That shift in perspective can change everything. I want you to ask yourself, gently and without judgment, how often have you noticed something unusual in your body but told yourself, "I'll wait and see"? How often have you minimized your own discomfort out of habit? And how would it feel if, just once, you gave yourself full permission to take those sensations seriously? The beauty of this stage of life is that you've earned the right to treat yourself with more kindness, not less. Listening doesn't make you a burden, it makes you wise. And it ensures that those who love you will have the gift of more time with you. I truly love to know where you're reading this from, whether it's a quiet morning in a small town, a busy afternoon in a big city, or somewhere in between. Share your location in the comments. It's always comforting to remember that we are part of a wide circle of people, all learning together how to listen a little more carefully to the stories our bodies are trying to tell. Let me tell you about George, who is 74. One evening after dinner, he felt a tightness in his chest, nothing sharp or unbearable, just a heavy discomfort. He told himself it was probably the spicy food, nothing to worry about. But his daughter noticed he looked pale and insisted he go to the emergency room. George hesitated, almost embarrassed to make a fuss, but he agreed. That decision changed everything. It turned out he was having a heart attack, and because he got there in time, the doctors were able to help before it became catastrophic. George later admitted that if he had been alone, he might have gone to bed and simply waited it out. You see, that's how easy it is to overlook what could be the most important warning sign of your life. The heart doesn't always shout, it often whispers. And at our age, those whispers are worth more than all the noise. So what should you do if you feel chest pain or pressure that doesn't feel right? First, stop what you're doing immediately. Don't try to push through or test yourself. Second, don't drive yourself anywhere. Call emergency services. Time is absolutely critical, and waiting just to see if it passes can close the window for help. Third, even if it's the middle of the night or you're worried about disturbing someone, remember, your life is more valuable than any momentary inconvenience. Think of it as an act of courage, not weakness. I know it can feel uncomfortable to take such decisive action. You might wonder, what if it's nothing? But ask yourself, wouldn't you rather feel a little embarrassed for being cautious than risk not being here for those who love you? Wisdom in this season of life is not about endurance at all costs, it's about discernment. It's about knowing when the body is speaking and when it's time to answer. If this message resonates with you, and if you want more gentle reminders that can make a real difference for your health and peace of mind, consider subscribing. It's a simple way to stay connected so you never have to face these questions alone. One of the most urgent signs your body can give you is sudden weakness, numbness, or confusion. Sometimes it's an arm that won't lift the way it should, a leg that feels heavy and uncooperative, or words that suddenly don't come out right.
At first glance, it might seem like fatigue, like you just need to sit down and rest. But these are the very moments when minutes matter most. What's often happening inside the body is a stroke, the flow of blood to the brain being disrupted. When that happens, every passing moment means that brain cells are being deprived of oxygen. The saying among doctors is, "Time lost is brain lost." That can sound frightening, and yes, it is serious, but knowledge is power here. Knowing what these signals mean allows you to act without hesitation. There's a simple tool you can keep in mind, one that has saved countless lives: the FAST test.
F stands for face. Notice if one side of the face is drooping. A stands for arm. See if one arm drifts downward when you try to raise both. S is for speech. Listen for slurred or strange words. And T is for time. If you notice any of these, it's time to call emergency services immediately. I know it's not always easy. Maybe you felt dizzy before and it passed. Maybe you've watched a loved one brush off similar symptoms, convincing themselves it was just tiredness. But a stroke doesn't give us the luxury of waiting. And while that thought can be intimidating, it can also be empowering to realize that by acting quickly, you can change the entire outcome. People who get help within the first hours often recover far more fully than those who wait. Think of this not as something to be afraid of, but as a reminder that your life and your mind are precious. Have you ever had a moment where your hand didn't feel quite right, or your words stumbled out in a way that surprised you? Did you dismiss it, telling yourself it was nothing? What would it feel like to give yourself permission next time to take those signals seriously? You've earned that right. You've lived too much life, gathered too much wisdom to let hesitation steal from you. Paying attention here is not about fear. It's about honoring your body and the incredible vessel it still is. And remember, you're not alone. Countless others have faced that split-second decision, to wait or to act. Choosing to act can make all the difference, not just for you, but for the people who love you most. Breath is life itself, and when it suddenly feels hard to catch, it can be one of the most unsettling experiences you'll ever face. Many of us know what it's like to climb a flight of stairs and pause at the top, catching our breath before moving on. That's normal. But what's different, and far more concerning, is when breathlessness appears without reason. Imagine sitting quietly in your chair, reading or watching the evening news, and suddenly you find yourself gasping, as if the air around you has grown thin. That is not something to wait on. It can be a signal from your heart, your lungs, or even a blood clot moving through your body, each of which requires immediate help. I understand why the instinct might be to shrug it off. You might tell yourself, "I'll just rest a moment, it will pass." And yes, sometimes it does pass. But there is a world of difference between being a little winded after effort and being breathless out of nowhere. Your body is wise. It knows when something is wrong. The real act of strength is choosing to listen. If you ever feel this sudden loss of breath, here are the steps to take. First, stop whatever you are doing. Don't try to fight through it or pretend it isn't happening. Second, sit upright, not lying flat, because this position helps your lungs and heart work with less strain. Third, call emergency services immediately. Do not wait to see if it eases, and do not attempt to drive yourself anywhere. Fourth, if you have medication prescribed for your breathing or a device like an inhaler or oxygen, use it right away. These small steps, taken quickly, can make all the difference. I think of a woman named Evelyn in her late 70s who once shared her story with me. She was knitting when she suddenly felt as if her chest was tightening and her breath became shallow. She thought it would fade, and for a moment she tried to stay calm and wait. But then she remembered what her doctor had once told her: never gamble with your breath. She called her neighbor, who dialed for help, and within the hour she was in the hospital being treated for a blood clot in her lung. Her courage to act, even when she was unsure, saved her life. These are the choices that keep us here for more mornings, more conversations, more quiet joys with the people who matter most. It's not about living in fear. It's about honoring the gift of life and the fragile strength of the body that carries us. Ask yourself gently, have you ever dismissed a moment of breathlessness as unimportant?
What would change if you gave yourself the same compassion and urgency you would give to someone you love dearly? Allow that question to sit with you, not as pressure, but as an invitation. The truth is, each breath you take is a reminder of presence, of life continuing, of resilience. Treat it as something sacred. And when that sacred rhythm falters, even for a moment, the most loving thing you can do is act without delay. There are other signals your body can send that deserve the same seriousness as chest pain, weakness, or breathlessness. One of them is a sudden severe headache, so intense that you find yourself saying, "This isn't like any headache I've ever had." That kind of pain can point to bleeding in the brain or another urgent problem. Another is uncontrolled bleeding, whether from a fall, a small cut that won't stop, or internal bleeding that shows up as dark or bloody stools. Severe abdominal pain, too, the kind that grips you and won't let go, should never be ignored, because it can be connected to the appendix, the gallbladder, or even a blocked intestine. And then there's fainting or collapsing without warning, something that may feel brief to you but can reveal serious trouble with your heart or blood pressure. These signs are not there to frighten you, but to remind you that your body has its own language. The question is whether you will allow yourself to listen. I know how easy it is to downplay these things. Maybe you've thought, it's just part of getting older, or I don't want to worry anyone. But let me ask you gently, have you ever brushed off a symptom because you didn't want to trouble someone? Did you convince yourself it wasn't worth the fuss, even when deep down you felt uneasy?
What might happen if you gave yourself permission to take those signs seriously, without guilt, without hesitation? This is not about being alarmed by every sensation. It's about discerning the difference between ordinary discomfort and extraordinary signals. With age comes a quieter, deeper wisdom. You already know the value of paying attention, whether it's in the way you tend a garden, listen to a grandchild, or notice the small details of a sunrise. That same attentiveness, when turned inward, becomes a form of self-respect. Imagine what changes if you honor these warnings as gifts rather than burdens. The truth is, your body is not betraying you. It is protecting you, calling for your care in the only way it knows how. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to say, "Yes, I hear you," and act quickly. Listening in this way is not just about survival, it is about giving yourself more time. Time to laugh, time to share, time to simply be. Wisdom at this stage of life is not in enduring silently, but in responding with love to the signals that keep you here. If these thoughts have touched you, I encourage you to stay connected, to subscribe, so you can continue receiving gentle reminders that support your well-being. And I'd love to hear from you. Which of these symptoms surprised you the most? And have you or someone you love ever ignored one of these signs? Your stories may be the very reminder another person needs to take their own health seriously.